In the summer of 1944, as the Allied forces prepared for the most ambitious amphibious assault in military history, a quiet revolution in wartime logistics churned beneath the English Channel. Amid the chaos of bullets and beachheads, a technological marvel of stealth and scale was already in motion. Its name sounded innocent, almost playful. But Operation PLUTO, an acronym for Pipeline Under the Ocean, would prove to be one of World War II's most ingenious and vital undertakings. More than just a feat of engineering, PLUTO represented a complex blend of secrecy, innovation, and urgency. For decades, it was buried under layers of classified documents and fading memories. But its story is not merely one of pipes and pumps. It is a tale of eccentric inventors, phantom fleets, engineering miracles, and a critical, overlooked battlefront: fuel supply. What follows is an untangling of that story, the secret of Operation PLUTO, and the mystery of the D-Day pipeline that helped fuel the liberation of Europe. Chapter 1: The Lifeblood of War, Fuel. It was the hidden currency of World War II. Every tank, truck, jeep, ship, and aircraft demanded it in massive quantities. And in 1944, as the Allies planned Operation Overlord, the code name for the D-Day invasion, the logistical nightmare of supplying fuel to a mobile, advancing army became increasingly dire. Conventional supply lines, tanker ships, and vulnerable convoys were far too exposed. German U-boats still prowled the Atlantic and Channel, and ports in France were expected to remain under Nazi control for weeks, if not months, after the initial invasion. If the Allies could not fuel their vehicles and aircraft, even a successful landing at Normandy would fizzle out into disaster. Enter a radical idea. What if they could deliver fuel directly across the English Channel via underwater pipelines? Chapter 2: Men of Vision and a Wild Idea. The pipeline concept began as a conversation among a handful of engineers and strategists in early 1942. Chief among them was Lord Louis Mountbatten, Chief of Combined Operations, who supported unorthodox approaches to military problems. The inspiration was sparked by the British engineers Arthur Hartley of the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, later BP, and Sir William Fraser, head of the Petroleum Warfare Department. Together, they approached the idea of a subsea fuel pipeline with a mix of audacity and desperation. At the time, no one had ever laid a flexible pipeline under such a distance, let alone in war-torn waters. The English Channel, 21 miles at its narrowest, might as well have been the Pacific. Still, the idea progressed. Under deep secrecy, two designs were proposed. The Hayes pipeline, based on a design by Siemens Brothers. This version utilized a lid-core cable encased in layers of steel and wire, similar to telecommunications cables. The Hamel pipeline, a steel pipe coiled on enormous floating drums known as conundrums, developed in collaboration with British steel companies. Each presented formidable engineering hurdles, but time was short and the stakes were immense. Chapter 3: Operation PLUTO is born. The operation was christened PLUTO, partly a nod to the Roman god of the underworld, and partly a typical example of British wartime acronym humor. Pipeline Under the Ocean had an almost cartoonish ring to it, but the undertaking was anything but. Testing began in earnest in late 1942 in the sheltered waters of the River Medway and off the Isle of Wight. Engineers faced countless obstacles: pressure tolerances, seabed conditions, cable flexibility, pipe fatigue. But gradually, solutions emerged. Hayes cables proved capable of withstanding pressure and currents. The Hamel steel pipes, though heavier and harder to manage, offered superior capacity. Mass production of both types began. Thousands of tons of steel, lead, and cable were requisitioned. Secrecy was paramount. Factories often didn't know what they were building. Many workers believed they were constructing parts for electrical transmission systems or oil rigs. Few guessed they were building the veins of a continent's liberation. Chapter 4: D-Day and the Race Against Time. On June 6, 1944, Allied forces stormed the beaches of Normandy. By the end of the day, the beachheads were secured, but not the ports. Supplies flooded ashore via the prefabricated harbors known as mulberries, but they couldn't handle liquid fuel efficiently. In the weeks following the landings, the first undersea pipelines were laid. Operation Bambi, a sub-operation of PLUTO, aimed to lay the pipeline from Shanklin Chine on the Isle of Wight to Cherbourg, a port liberated in late June. The deployment was perilous and complex. Specialized ships laid the pipeline while under threat of German aircraft, mines, and submarines. Engineers aboard these ships monitored the tension and positioning in real time as crews struggled with unpredictable currents and seabed topography. By August, the first successful pipeline connection was established. Fuel began to flow beneath the waves, quietly, invisibly, and crucially. Chapter 5. The Conundrums and the Code. Among Pluto's most surreal elements were the conundrums, massive floating drums 60 feet in diameter used to coil and uncoil miles of pipeline. Their appearance, like gigantic spools bobbing in the water, earned them their curious name. These conundrums were towed across the channel at low speeds, unreeling pipe as they went. The image was bizarre, almost fantastical. Vast metal wheels rolling across the sea, laying the foundations of a hidden energy highway. Meanwhile, Pluto's security measures were unrelenting. Code words and disinformation shrouded the project. Documents referred to cables and telegraph installations. Workers on the Isle of Wight were forbidden from discussing their work even with family. German intelligence, for all their skill, never uncovered the existence of Pluto. Chapter 6. The True Scale of Success. By war's end, Pluto had delivered over 180 million imperial gallons of fuel across the channel. At its peak, the pipelines pumped over 1 million gallons per day to the Allied front lines. Though initial flow rates were lower than anticipated, as more pipelines came online and the front advanced, Pluto's impact grew. It wasn't flashy, it didn't win battles, but it kept the tanks moving, the trucks rolling, and the aircraft flying. General Eisenhower would later credit logistical innovations like Pluto and the Mulberry Harbors as vital to the Allies' success in Europe. Chapter 7. The Forgotten Operation. After the war, Pluto was quickly decommissioned. Many of the pipes were salvaged or left to decay beneath the channel. The secrets that had once protected it now condemned it to obscurity. For decades, Operation Pluto was largely unknown to the public. In the grand narratives of D-Day and Europe's liberation, it was a footnote, technical, invisible, overshadowed by the thunder of artillery and the drama of infantry assaults. But slowly, recognition grew. In the 1990s and 2000s, historians began revisiting the operation. Restoration efforts preserved one of the original pumping stations at Sandown on the Isle of Wight. Exhibits now showcase the pipelines, maps, and conundrum fragments. And in Cherbourg, a memorial plaque quietly honors the engineers and visionaries of Pluto. Chapter 8. Engineering Legacy. Pluto was more than a wartime stunt. It marked the birth of modern subsea pipeline engineering. The techniques, materials, and lessons learned would go on to influence post-war oil and gas industries, telecommunications, and deep-sea exploration. From the North Sea oil rigs to global undersea fiber optic cables, Pluto's DNA runs deep. Moreover, Pluto demonstrated the power of combining civil ingenuity with military necessity. It was a collaboration between government agencies, oil companies, steel manufacturers, and inventors, a prototype for the public-private partnerships that define modern infrastructure. Epilogue. Echoes beneath the sea. Today, somewhere beneath the English Channel, fragments of Pluto still rest, ghostly arteries that once pulsed with the lifeblood of liberation. Their story, once lost in secrecy, now emerges as one of World War II's greatest technical achievements. In an age where war stories often center on destruction, Pluto stands out as a tale of construction, of creativity, daring, and cooperation under fire. It is a story worth remembering. And now finally, remembering it we are. Pluto at a glance. Key facts. Full name, Pipeline Under the Ocean. Operational period, 1944 to 1945. Design types, Heiss, lid cable, and Hommel, steel pipe. Fuel delivered, over 180 million imperial gallons. Peak flow, 1 million gallons per day. Landing points, Isle of Wight, UK to Cherbourg, France, and later from Dungeness to Boulogne. Secret name Pluto, a mix of acronym and code word. Further reading in sources. Hartley Arthur, The Secret Pipeline, Engineering Victory Myth. Mountbatten Louis, Memoirs of Combined Operations. The Imperial War Museum Archives, National Archives Q, Operation Pluto Dossiers, BBC History, The Pipe That Won the War.